Well, okay, so let's talk about Black Panther, shall we? So we both saw it. That's good.
Yeah, it's a movie.
It's like there's what's a good analogy? It's like you ever have like a meal where like like a pretty sizable portion of the meal that was absolutely great, but then there was like a lot of crap all around it, and it like you basically just discarded that and didn't hold it against the meal.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Maybe you're like, oh, I wish there was more of that meal, or that stuff wasn't there. Um, yeah, that's Wakanda Forever. Forever. What I like about this movie is that they really ripped off the Band-Aid right away.
Yeah.
Like within like the first 5 minutes, it was like, oh, Panther's sick. We gotta save him. Oh, he's dead. And then they have the funeral, and it's that like they get through it really like economically, and they get through it briskly. And I thought it was really effective. I thought it worked really well. People were like complaining like, oh, maybe he should have gone out in a battle. I'm like, whatever, he just died, whatever. I
Well,
don't think you have
I think
to.
there's an instinct to be like, can we at least still make it make sense within the narrative that's already been crafted? Like, because it's been set up that he wouldn't die of things like illness, or that this civilization would have been able to, at least write in something explaining why they can't, or just make it make a little bit more sense. And I didn't mind the way that it was treated because the truth is the audience knows that the
Yeah,
actor died,
yeah,
and like how much fiction are you gonna write about the character's death, which then kind of evokes the real man's death? You certainly can't be like he blewed up on screen, like
yeah.
or off screen. You want to like, because the truth is most people know Chadwick as T'Challa and T'Challa as Chadwick, and so there is kind of a reality fiction blurring of the lines here. And so you might think like, well, you don't have to be respectful of a fictional character's death, and it's like, well, you kind of do. Like the guy died like 10 minutes ago. It feels like, and I
Yeah.
know maybe someday, 20 years from now, people will watch this movie and be like, geez, that was done really weirdly. But
Yeah.
for right,
Or
I mean,
maybe they would say, oh, you should have just like recast him or something. But I don't know. I think there's, this director, he worked so closely with, Chadwick Boseman. And, I think the art in the story that they tell with this movie kind of works that out, which I think is very interesting.
I think
Um,
recasting would have been an enormous mistake.
oh yeah, I think that would
Like
be a
what?
mistake.
Like the guy died. We all know he died, and now like here's some other T'Challa. Like, and by the way, like Chadwick was he's a movie star, so it's not like there's just some other movie star that can be like, it would have been so distracting, and you would have lost this massive opportunity I think to tell a really important story, which is what happens when you lose your MVP
Yeah.
suddenly. And there's a lot of movies about death. There's a lot of movies about loss, but I feel like that is something we all deal with kind of often. And it's certainly something we fear. What if I lost this person?
Oh
What if
yeah.
this very important person at my job left?
Oh yeah,
Well,
I'm thinking about that right now with a couple people who are like, if you retired next week, like we're all screwed.
yeah.
It's like it's one of those things.
Yeah. And as soon as you lose an MVP, who, let's say that you were hiding behind or that you were following, and like all of a sudden you're the leader, and like you didn't ask to be the leader, because I've heard some people say like Shuri just ain't it, she's just not, and I'm like, but her not being it is kind of the point in a way.
Yeah,
It's
and
kind of
I
like,
always thought Shuri was like the best part of best side character in the original Black Panther. I thought she's got a very compelling. Um, I don't know, just like rhythm to her. Like maybe it's just like her design is really good. Her bone structure, like she's just very
yeah, there's something
compelling.
striking about her. I agree.
Yeah, like I can't like keep my eyes off her. I think she has a very good performance. She's very charismatic. So I think that was the natural fit for her to rise up. And I think this story, yeah, her not kind of being angry at the passing and have wanting to destroy the world, basically burn it down and stuff like that, in her like fury basically,
It's great.
and then coming around to taking up the mantle. I think that's just the way they did it is was really really well done. Now there is a lot of stuff that I wish wasn't in this movie, namely Ironheart.
Yeah, my broad criticism would be that it was underwritten and under edited. It was like it kind of came in at both ends. But something else that occurred to me was that the tone. So tone is a really important thing in a story. Striking the right tone. We all know what striking the wrong tone looks like. Thor: Love and Thunder is a really good example of like the tone is wrong. You know, the simplest way to demonstrate it would be to show you like a scene about somebody dying of cancer, and then like Taika Waititi's character jacking rocks off or whatever. But
yes. Yeah, I noticed that a lot. That it was much. I mean, still had like the Marvel quips, like, you know, like, and like, I like her and stuff like that. It's like, you know, stuff that doesn't really.
Not perfect, but they were few and far between.
It was much less quippy, and it took itself seriously, which I really appreciated.
Oh, and I would say, because Ryan Coogler is like a really competent, really strong director, they're very lucky to have him for this project, because God, like, maybe that's part of why I'm very sympathetic to the movie, where I'm like, this ain't an easy movie to make. Like, no. You know, I don't know. This is a hard needle to thread. And you've got one of our best talents doing it. So they're very lucky to have that. A lot of times you'd see in like Black Widow is a really good example, where they kind of get like a Sundance director and she does the intimate dialogue scenes. And then you can tell like all the action was prevised by the studio. Somebody, you know, so there's like mixed tones. There's not a singular vision. It felt like the action was integrated into the dialogue scenes, which is integrated into the character work. So even when the story was badly paced, which was frequently, when there are extraneous characters that are not well integrated into the overall narrative, because it has a strong sense of place and because it's tonally consistent, I find it easier to filter that stuff out. But yeah. It felt like totally extraneous.
Yeah, it felt like there was a steady hand on everything, even if not everything worked. And the sound design was really good, and the score.
Yeah,
like the score is just so unique. Like you listen to it, and it has a voice, it has a theme. Like there's a lot of Marvel scores. Like I couldn't tell which one's which and which movie it goes with, but you can, like this, you tell right away. It has. It really carries the movie through. And yeah, if you think about the plot of this movie too long, it's not good.
You'll start disliking the movie.
You'll start disliking the movie. But if you just like let the story carry through with you, I think it works a lot. And I really dislike the mid-credit scene too.
I did too. Yeah. So for spoilers, everybody, from this point forward. But man, they did this beautiful scene of Shuri just sitting on a beach thinking about her brother, cut to credits. And how classy would it have been to be like, hey, you know that like Marvel after credits thing that we always do? Not this time. You know, like we're closing the book on Chadwick here. That would have been really cool. Now, I know that some people are like, oh, but this means that you're reopening the book on T'Challa. But I'm like, but I just watched a whole movie about how we can live on beyond T'Challa. We don't need a T'Challa recast or T'Challa clone, because they bring in, you know, Lupita Nyong'o. It turns out had a baby with him, and they named him T'Challa. So they're basically promising you that there will be a new T'Challa, Black Panther. I don't know, 15 years from now or something.
Yeah, and I just didn't think it really worked with the movie, and it undercut that really powerful ending.
You can almost like imagine like it like quick fading back up and be like, oh, actually, you know, here's some like
Charles right here all around. There's a baby in the background.
Yeah, any kind of it happened off screen type shit. I'm like, I don't need it. Give me, you know, just give me emotion. That's all, like more than anything. I just want to feel something. And and it did that. It had shoddy CG too, by the way, and I didn't mind. I really didn't mind it because again, the sound design rocks. The action sequences are well composed, and like, I don't know, some crappy CG in a sequence that is well designed. It's like anything. It's like that old thing that, you know, filmmakers say about like you can actually make the visuals look better with better sound design. Everything is a trick on the mind. Everything is about like selling it to the audience, and so yeah, you can get away with, at least for me, you can get away with some shoddy CG as long as the sequences are good.
And I thought like Namor was a fun villain. I thought, you know, I know some people because he's in the comics he's like an Atlantean, and then now he's like more Mesoamerican and stuff like that. But I think it's like a nice, compelling design. I thought it was kind of a fun performance.
Are you getting tired of these villains that are like technically right?
Yeah,
they've been oppressed.
True, but he was like menacing enough that I kind of yeah, I know the gray area villains that are technically right are
they were essentially pitting two oppressed civilizations or at least marginalized civilizations against one another, and then they chose a side, the heroic side. But that was only after they set up like, but these people are at serious threat of being conquered. And so they're it's purely self-defense. It's purely, it's war essentially against like colonizers. And then you kind of like go like, but well, I guess because the story is always, you're both ideologically on the same page, but you're just taking it a little too far. You're like a villain now.
Yeah.
You're too much of a Magneto or too much of a revolutionary.
Yeah. And even Thanos was made a little bit like, oh, well, I'm thinning out the numbers to protect the environment, like,
well, anytime I heard, like the Thanos was one of these gray villains, I'm like, not really. I'm like, I was like, Thanos is pretty like overtly villainous. If you think he has anywhere near a point about population growth or something, I don't know. Like, I don't think Thanos thought about it all that much. He goes with 50% kind of haphazardly.
Half it'll be fine.
Couldn't he have used the stones to at least calculate it a little bit more precisely and calculate like who is the least valuable among us or something? I don't know. Like, he's like,
could he use the stones to just make more resources?
These are the issues, of course. So I'd much rather believe that the guy is just insane, villainous, a radical.
Riri Williams as Ironheart did not need to be in the movie, especially because she's such a similar character to Shuri. Like, you could have given a lot of her plot points to Shuri, and she didn't really do much in the film, or really besides just introduce her, and then she was like along for the ride and didn't add anything. So they could have cut that. They could have cut out Elaine and Bilbo Baggins. They could have cut them out.
Elaine and Bilbo Baggins, yes. All of that stuff is just kind of trying to keep some of the Marvel threads going, I guess.
It's like, it's keeping those balls in the air, and I didn't need that. The movie didn't need that, definitely.
There's a really strong hour and 50-minute movie in here, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But
Ironheart probably was the biggest issue for me, just because it felt so. It's like, we're going to introduce a new character. She's going to be a MacGuffin. And I don't know. It just kind of rang inauthentic to me. It felt the most superficial. I'd rather spend more time with the general there, and her kind of. One of the things that I worried about going into the movie was that they weren't going to prioritize or choose a main character. That they were going to kind of do like an ensemble thing, and then maybe they're all Black Panther. I didn't know.
Because especially the title Wakanda Forever, it kind of it says like, oh, it's gonna be all of Wakanda saving the day or something.
But you gotta pick somebody.
The main character is Shuri, and it's very obviously Shuri, and it's about her. That's why I think the movie still ultimately works, even though there's a lot of chuffa. Is that it's about her. It's about her accepting the mantle and coming through the grief. So, and
having a religious awakening, actually.
Yeah.
That's she essentially is like, I can't flourish. I can't awaken from this depression and this grief until I believe in something higher. She's literally saying like the ancestral lands that they go to when they take the herb or whatever doesn't exist. That's and
then she meets Michael B. Jordan in the ancestral lands, which is kind of like a Satan character, which was great. I love that.
That's what you want in your mythical superhero movies. I heard some people being like, "Oh, I don't want grief for 2 hours and 2+ hours in my superhero movie." And I'm like, I kind of do.
It's like a human emotion that we feel and have to get through.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. Yeah, I I guess like in part it was kind of like Rocky Balboa, like where the movie starts with kind of an unexplained death of a major character, and the story is about the living. The story is about like, what about who among you can move forward under the circumstances. It's like this. It's kind of like the ultimate test of somebody's character is like, yeah, can you move on from here? I think they could have even explored it a little bit more. Yeah. I don't know that they needed to do quite so much with Namor and that civilization and all that. Nope. The plot, there's a lot of plot, and you know, there's a machine and the thing.
Yeah, and the yeah, I don't know.
And you didn't have a problem with how dark it was?
I didn't. I don't know if my projector was properly calibrated or something, because I didn't. There was a couple scenes where I was like, oh, it's kind of stylistically dark, like, you know, when she's with her mother on the lakeside there, and then Namor comes out. But I didn't have an overall problem with it.
What about?
I did have a problem that she got stabbed like right through the spine, and she was like fine at the end.
Oh yeah, is that like? I had to explain that away with like, I guess that's the Black Panther powers.
Yeah, I guess so. But like, especially because she's very thin. Like, I don't know. She needs to.
Yeah, you feel bad for her.
She needs to eat. She needs to eat. But
there's something about that her lankiness though that I find compelling.
It's definitely, she's got a good character design as a human. But but the fact that her waist is so skinny and then she's stabbed, it's like, you got her spine. You know?
Her organs are pretty packed in there. You see, like Kevin Smith posted yet another one of these like kind of awkward close-up photos of him crying.
Well, why does he keep doing that?
Yeah, he was crying over the mid-credit sequence that you and I hated.
Oh,
he's in the movie theater and he's all. And I'm like, so he caught a lot of shit for this time. This time the internet wouldn't have it. I mean, people have been having less and less patience for Kevin Smith over the years, and this one feels like people are like, fuck you. And of course his reaction was like, wait, I'm allowed, you know, aren't we all supposed to feel emotional about this movie? And it's like, now it's more like, what is this photo? What is this, like, why are you tweeting it? Why are you, and don't you cry at everything? So it hasn't lost its impact. And,
yeah.
You know,
it's a show.
It's too much of a show. It's very social media of him. Mm-hmm. And maybe some of these kind of gauche social media gestures will become less and less popular. You know, they become more of a social faux pas. Like, you're not, you know,
you need a proper amount of mocking for it.
Yeah, he was very upset that he was mocked so thoroughly for it.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.